Welcome. In previous videos, I have addressed how to find additional information by using the bibliographic references list in a paper that's at hand. I've also addressed how to use the citations and references presented in papers to acquire more relevant information. However, in this video, I would like to address how to make judgments of the quality of information that's been acquired, whether that the papers have been acquired through Google Scholar or through a university library. Here, I visited the URL scholar.google.com, and I am about to enter a search for information related to privacy and social media. I search for social media as a phrase, so I place it within quotation marks, and the word privacy. And Google Scholar returns just shy of 2.4 million hits. Now, if I were just starting out on my search, the first thing I should do is to review the titles of the papers, possibly even the dates of publication, so I know that I'm receiving the most up-to-date information. But what if I like the information displayed here, negotiating privacy concerns, social capital needs in a social media environment, but before I read the paper, I want to make a judgment of the relative quality of that paper. Here I've zoomed in so you can more clearly read the text. I see the first article was published in the year 2011, and I consider that a little bit dated for information related to privacy in regard to social media, because social media is a very dynamic field of information systems, and I'd rather consider information that's a little more current. So looking at the second article, which was published in 2020, so it's only 2 or 3 years old as of today, it still addresses privacy concerns, specifically in regard to social media-enabled apps. And that's related to my area of research interest. So I see it was published in Computers and Human Behavior, and in the last 2 to 3 years, it's been cited at least 70 times. So it's I just know from experience that's a reasonably high number of citations for an article in this discipline. So even before I open the file, I see that it was published in Computers in Human Behavior. And for this, I'm going to find more information now about that journal using a database that I have access to in my university library. Through my university library, I have access to the Ulrich's Web database. There are many complementary and actually competing databases to which universities subscribe that allow scholars to make judgments of the quality of journals. So we're not looking at authors, we're not looking at particular articles, we're looking at the actual publications themselves. It's like comparing the magazine Time to the magazine Newsweek. Time is written for a popular audience. Newsweek is written for a college-educated audience. and I would expect Newsweek to have articles in it that go into a little bit greater detail than I would expect in the Time magazine. Well, the same thing is true of academic journals. Some have higher quality editors, more editors. They more carefully review the articles that are presented for publication. They are more rigorous in their peer review process prior to publication. They might even limit the number of articles that they accept each year within a given discipline. So these are some of the things I want to know as I'm making a judgment on should I invest time in reading that article that I found in Google Scholar when I don't know who the authors are. So I want to know, okay, tell me about the journal in which the article had been published. So I'm going to search here for the name of the journal, Computers and Human Behavior, and I'm going to show you a problem that occurs. A number of journals by the same title appear, and they're all from Elsevier. Elsevier is the publisher of the journal. But I have to ask myself, which of these is the journal that published the article? So a trick that I use is I go back to Google Scholar, I open the PDF file, and I look to see, does this PDF have a digital object identifier, a DOI? And it does. I copy the DOI, and all DOIs always begin with 10 dot. And then they can be followed by letters, characters, numbers, or other typographic characters. I'm going to copy that and then use another search function at crossref.org. And I'll put links to this web page in the description of this video. And I'm going to search for that DOI. This is the information in the DOI's database about that particular article. And I see here, I can tell who the publisher was. It's Elsevier BV. I can also see that the ISSN, Industry Standard Serial Number, for that journal, not the article, for the journal is this number I've highlighted. I'm going to copy that and now go back to my university library and search for that number in the Ulrich's web database. And I should get a single hit. I do. Computers and Human Behavior, published by Elsevier Limited. This is the ISSN, published in the United Kingdom. It's an active journal. It's still in publication. And it's available in print format. It's also, the articles themselves may be available digitally, but the journal is produced primarily on paper. Now, looking at this page, I can see that each volume of the journal comes with a table of contents, that the journal itself is refereed, meaning peer-reviewed. This little referee shirt indicates that it's refereed. If I click the title of the journal, I get additional information. I can see that it's published bi-monthly up through 2015. Since then, it doesn't report what the frequency of publication is. It is refereed, Refereed is just a synonym for peer-reviewed. It's a journal, primarily in print version, from the United Kingdom. It was started in 1985, which means it has a relatively long history for a journal about computers. That the text is written in English, and it's considered to be an academic or a academic, scholarly, same thing, journal. Not written for the general public. It's written for academics. This is the highest quality of journal that is reported in the Ulrich's Web database. An academic journal that is peer-reviewed, that has had a track record of publication and is still in publication. There's not much more I could ask about the journal until I start reading its articles. Here I'm displaying a copy of the article that I've been considering. I acquired it through the university library. I found in Google Scholar, I was able to easily locate a pre-proof copy of the article, a version of the paper prior to its having gone through the publisher's peer review process. When I logged into my university library and searched for this same document using its title, I found the final version of the paper. It's at this point that I would go through the normal reading process for an academic paper to judge whether or not it is appropriate for my research needs. I'm pretty well confident that it is of a relatively high quality document because it was from a reputable publisher in what I consider to be a reputable journal, and that's the best I can judge at this point until I start reading the content and making an informed judgment of the quality of the material by reading it for myself. I want to return to the crossref.org website because I had used it earlier to search for a DOI so I could identify the ISSN of the journal so that I could find the correct journal in the Ulrich's Web database. However, I'd like to show you another use of this web page while I have it displayed. Now, I'm going to copy the name of the article and paste it here under the search on an article title. And then I'll grab the first author's surname, copy and paste that here as the name of the first author. Now when I search, oh, I have copied the wrong information. Let me try that again. I'll copy the name of the article and the first author. And I can see here that this article does have a DOI, and the DOI begins with the number 10 dot, and it was published in 2020 in a journal of the name with the ISSN 074-75632. So there's two ways to find the ISSN, but this search box here in the middle of this web page, the search on an article title, is useful for another purpose. When writing APA-style reference entries for journal articles, we must include any assigned DOI to each article or to each reference entry. And sometimes DOIs are not included in the PDF copy of an article. So using this search box, one needs to know only the first author's surname and the complete title of the paper, and then we can search to see if a DOI were available, and if it were, what it is. So this website, which I'll link down in the description for this video, is particularly useful for two purposes: finding the DOI of an article, or once the DOI is known, finding the ISSN of its journal. And it's a kind of cool website that becomes useful for different purposes. I know in this video I got a little bit into the weeds of considering research material. But this is what I and my colleagues are asking of you. We are asking you not to accept data prima facie. Search for expert level data that you can most rely on when conducting your research. Don't accept the first bits of data that come your way in a Google search. In fact, in general, for most academic classes, I find very little use for public search engines. Search engines that are non-academic in nature. Google Scholar can be wonderful, and in future videos I'll address how Google Scholar, some of the more powerful functionality of Google Scholar. But for now, I've demonstrated how to use Google Scholar to make a somewhat informed decision based on the quality of an article that was found through Google Scholar, and then how to use some of that information to learn about the journal in which the article was published. I think it might also be useful to know a little bit about the biographical information of the authors. I'll have to make sure I cover that in a future video. But for now, I hope that this video's content helps you as you progress in your academic development. And as always, I wish you very happy academic writing.